Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune. Join me once again is Shea Dixon. Shea, we are here on a Sunday after LSU's emphatic 34-10 win over Arkansas on the road, and yeah, what a win! What an impressive performance. I was the only one of our staff to pick LSU to lose this game. I did it on the podcast as well, and my best bet was the under, which did cash though, so we'll take that. But I was incorrect in this
You
pick.
caught heat on the board after the game.
I
Every
loved
new
it.
thread was about you.
I loved it. Hey, the number of threads created last night went way up after the final. It's terrific. I loved it. Our
Clip what
community, our nose is so we know each other so well at this point. I was just ready for it. I was just waiting.
I had said we can clip it. If they somehow started fast, Arkansas was not in the SEC games they had played scoring many points in the first half. It was 7, it was 3, it was 3. We just hadn't seen LSU start fast. And I said, if they did, this could be one of those games we look up. I don't remember what I said the score was, but I was like 35-17, and people just gloss over it. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's expected. But we haven't seen LSU do it this year. They do you one better. They play great on defense against this Bobby Petrino coach team, hold them in check, and out of the first quarter, really should have had another touchdown drive that gets called back on a million penalties and boneheaded decisions.
We'll get
But
into that.
they get TD field goal. You're up 10-0 after the first quarter, and then you strike first in the second quarter. You're up 13-0. It never felt at one point like LSU was not in complete control of a game that they were playing on the road at night in Fayetteville against a 4-2 Arkansas team where they were favored by less than a field goal.
Yeah, I was asked on the board is like what went wrong or what went right for LSU that I thought, wasn't going to happen when I predicted Arkansas to win. And I think the first thing that I said was the two turnovers. The two turnovers I think were immense in LSU taking momentum early, like you said, getting off to that fast start, scoring, then holding Arkansas to the missed field goal, then scoring again, and then getting the fumble. It's like boom, boom, boom. LSU's up 13-0. And then I agree with you in the terms that LSU dominated the game. The only time I felt like LSU was ever in danger was when Arkansas took over down 7, I believe it was, or no, down 6, and Whit Weeks gets the tipped ball interception, which basically leads to a touchdown. It's basically a pick six, but it leads to a touchdown to extend the lead back to 2 possessions there. That was the only time I felt like LSU was not in control, and then they immediately retook control. So the first thing I said was turnovers. The second thing is, like you said, the fast start. Scoring a touchdown on your first possession, even when penalties bring it back, and then you have to break a 22-yard run with Caden Durham. This was the second, and again, the only other time they had gotten off to a fast start was against South Alabama. So against P4 teams, they hadn't done it. UCLA, South Carolina, USC, Ole Miss, none of them were fast starts. This was what they needed to do to get ahead and to force this Bobby Petrino offense to really be uncomfortable. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. That was the most surprising thing to me.
I'd also said that I thought there was a better chance that the defense continued to trend in the right direction than Nussmeier going in the opposite direction.
For sure.
A solid night for Nuss, but the defense really stepped up here, led by Whit Weeks, who once again was on fire. But this front seven causes havoc, and that helps out a defensive backfield that we know what they're working with. But at the same time, Sage Ryan makes a big hit and makes a big tip on a play to prevent a touchdown. You see Jordan Gilbert have some plays. You saw Burns have some plays. So, like, these guys are coming along and making big plays when they're getting helped out by the front seven,
Yeah.
which I don't think before the season we knew the front seven would be this good.
Yeah, we assumed, I think, before the season was like Harold Perkins and Swinson would have to like cause havoc. They've been blitzing and been really effective with their blitzes. Taylor Green ended the game. Like, again, goes back to what I was saying is like I knew Taylor Green would have a solid game. I thought Nussmeier would have a decent game, but I thought LSU would be able to run the ball, which we'll get to in a second. But the defense having those 3 sacks and like all of them, anytime you put Arkansas behind the chains, it's significant because your drive's basically over when you get Green into like an obvious passing situation. So, and credit to the secondary, like you said. Now Arkansas converted a few, third and longs or third and mediums, which drove LSU fans crazy. But I mean, overall, the ability to hold Arkansas to 2 yards per carry, which even if you take out the sacks, it's only 3.9 yards per carry. So, yeah, the defense was just awesome. It starts with the front seven and it trickles back to the secondary, and just their best performance of the season by far, in my opinion.
And look, this could have gotten a shout out to Damian Ramos, who had the best game of his career, 4 for 4. He had a 48-yarder. He made both of his extra points. Gets you 14 points in a game that Arkansas only scored 10. So your kicker outscores the opponent. He had a great game. But even as you said, that first drive, they get pulled back on some penalties, procedural stuff. In the end of the game, 11 penalties, 80 yards.
Oof,
But Durham busts off the touchdown. That second drive, you have to remember, too, was negated by penalties right out of the gate. Nussmeier, they get the ball with about 6 minutes left in the first quarter, and they came out and threw it to Tradez. But then on the next play, DJ Chester false start.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're 2nd and 15. They ran it, end up getting that great pass to Aaron Anderson, get a first down, immediately hit Kyron Lacey, another first down. Then all of a sudden, Caden Durham pops off 8-yard run. You're at 3rd and 2. You're good. Another first down, Lacey. So you're grooving at this point. And I think after that CJ Daniels play, it was like 2nd and 1. Landon Jackson, who played at LSU, was in the backfield all night. Got a rush onto Nussmeier, and he wasn't able to get it to Mason Taylor. So it's 3rd and 1. All right, that's fine. You're going to go out and run the ball or whatever. And they bring in the heavy package, and Bo Borderlawn false starts.
Yeah.
Now it's 3rd and 6. Somehow again, Aaron Anderson picks it up for you. But ultimately, you've driven down to the point where you've settled for a field goal. So they were overcoming even these procedural penalties to be able to still get points. I'll also say this stood out to me, Maddie B, something that doesn't happen every game, but when it does happen for teams, it often results in a win, or at least in a big notable stat that you would put up there into the top 3. Let me pull it up here on where are we at with scoring? Oh, I want the whole game. Anyways, Arkansas turned the ball over 3 times. The last time LSU kneeled it out, but the other 2 times they turned it over, LSU turned it into points.
Yeah,
So
10 points.
That's big as well. 10 points, a touchdown and a field goal. So,
yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that though that was the swing, because in theory, like just play by play wise, like Arkansas moved the ball relatively effectively through the first half. I think they were at 7 yards per play in the first half, somewhere around there. And then the third quarter, LSU started playing better. And in the fourth quarter, they just, put the game away basically. But it was the turnovers that really, separated the game and stole momentum. So that's what good defenses do, right? They get sacks, they force them into uncomfortable situations. And then the next step, which Brian Kelly's talked about, the next step is creating turnovers off of the havoc, which they have now done, it's huge. That if they are able to do that, they're going to be a real threat to like make a run in the playoffs.
And remember, it happened early. LSU gets that first TD from Caden Durham. Arkansas goes down and misses a field goal. They capitalize. They go down and get their own field goal. We talked about all the false starts that, on a 14-play drive that led to that. But then you turn right around, Arkansas gets the ball. Yes, you're up 10-0, but you were like, man, we're getting all these false starts. All this is happening. And Greg Penn immediately punches it out. Major Burns gets it. You've got the ball back. Once again, a field goal, but now it's 13-0. Then, as you note, Arkansas second quarter, they got an early TD. But from there, it was a punt, and that was it for the rest of the half. So
that was the one. That was where they were driving, and I was like, man, if they score a touchdown before the half, I'm going to be really uncomfortable to cut it to 16 to 14. But then that's when Sage had the big hit pass breakup, and then Major had a pretty nice play on I think it was a fade route or something like that on the outside. So to force the punt, I will say, like, the time of possession was basically 39-21 for LSU, which slightly skewed, I think, off of that fumble. Like it felt like LSU had the ball the entire first half because of like the fumble and the quick drive. But I thought going into the game, which is another reason I picked the under, it was like these are two teams that are going to want to drive the ball down the field. So every time Arkansas got it, it felt like they had to be perfect. And then those one TFLs or the one penalties or anything like that, LSU was able to just jump on them. And that's really the sign of a good defense, to be able to keep your foot on their neck like that. So, again, more praise for the LSU defense. Like you said, Nussmeier, 22 of 33, 224, no touchdowns, no picks. I mean, if you look across the conference, he is just playing at a higher level than anybody else right now. Even in his unspectacular games, his ability just to make the right throws, the arm strength, the arm talent, and then he made a couple dumb throws, sure, but they weren't picked off, and you live to see another day.
And look, LSU in the first half, as we talked about, starting fast. That's why they won this game, and then they finished. But TD field, these were their drives. TD field goal, field goal, field goal. Then it was halftime. They come out and punt, and after that, it's TD field goal, TD kneel the clock out. Punt once. The punt drive was one where once again you got snake bitten. Arkansas got the ball first, coming out of halftime. They hit a 50-something yard field goal. But for me, it still felt in control. It was 16-10. Here they come. Pick up a first down on third. Then they hit at some point in there was that big CJ Daniels play that went for a good amount of yards. You're all the way down to the Arkansas 35. You hit Mason Taylor on I don't know how Mason Taylor caught the ball, but on an unbelievable catch.
Yeah.
You're picking up 20 yards, and Emory Jones is holding. All right, you're backed up. You're 3rd and 9 now instead of basically in the red zone. 3rd and 9, you hit Lacey. You've cut it all the way down to 5 yards. Lacey gets hit with offensive pass interference. I don't know. I can't.
I mean, that's what
it was, but I don't know what the call there was. That negates it. I don't know if I agree with it. Now it's 3rd and 34. It ain't happening for you. You play it safe, basically. They tossed it to Williams and got down to 4th and 20 something. You punt it. And that was the only punt. But had you not had these penalties, a hold, a phantom PI, you were already back into the red zone. You might have scored on every single possession of this football game. And you flip it to say the defense held them to 10 points. This is by far the best game they've played all season, and it's not close.
100%. 100%. This is just such an impressive performance. Again, if I'm going to pick the team to lose and they go and beat the team by 24 points, I have nothing to say, but this is an outstanding performance. This is the type of showing that puts you in the upper echelon of not just the SEC, but the entire country. Like I was not expecting to have this dominant of performance from this team. Again, to start strong, to force turnovers, to not turn it over, to overcome your own mistakes. Like that's what really, really good teams do. And I wasn't sure that this team was at that level yet. And they completely are at this point, because the Ole Miss game, to pull that out somehow, whether you want to credit Tiger Stadium or just an awesome game from the defense, sure. But to do this and to be complimentary, which Brian Kelly talks about a lot, I think just puts LSU in that upper tier of teams across the country, which none of the teams are perfect. We know that, especially with Texas losing and whatnot. But like, you look at the best teams and they are ones that complement each other, have really good playmakers, Garrett Nussmeier, Kyron Lacey, Whit Weeks, so on, and they can compete with anybody. So I'll take LSU right now. I feel really, really good about LSU.
I love the staff too that they put together. It's the best of the Kelly tenure. But one thing we've seen in the Kelly era, which is a combination too of LSU's players, but he seems to be able to get it drilled into them. They get better as the season goes on. And I think we're really seeing that this year with the coaching staff they put together. But every year they've lost the opener. Every year they put on some streak of, going 5 straight wins, 6 straight wins, 8, 7-2 across whatever it is, to where they don't fall apart. And they haven't. And here we are. Matty B, we'll talk about this more in a second, but for the first time since 2007, and obviously that was the year of chaos where LSU wins a national championship with 2 losses. No one in the BCS era nor the current playoff era has won it with 2 losses. We could be headed for chaos because, again, every SEC team has a loss now. before November, and it's mid-October, and we've added Texas, who was number one in OU, to the conference. So
Yeah.
a wild stat there. Before we keep diving into the next thing, we do want to shout out LSU Snacks. You see their stuff on our game day coverage, our post game coverage. If you go to lsusnacks.com, they are doing a lot right now in the LSU community, and really kind of with a number of SEC teams, but found a way to not only get the LSU brand, the marketing, all of that through with the LSU side, but each purchase goes back to supporting LSU athletes. We're in this obviously in the NIL era now. Everyone asks how you can give. Here's a way that they found to pair with LSU, create both. As you see, if you're watching on YouTube, they've got the crunchy chocolate chip cookies, or they've got the bar. Maddie B, we've had both bars. There's the bar right there.
Mm-hmm.
Almonds, chocolate, toasted oats. I had one here recently. It was extremely good. They're going to soon be in stores here in BR and surrounding areas. But you can get them from LSU Snacks right now. It is just lsusnacks.com. Again, I was at a function, alumni function on Friday. There were already some floating around. But LSU Snacks, officially licensed Snack of LSU Athletics, are here is trying to boost NIL efforts. Again, every purchase of the LSU Win bars or the LSU Win cookies directly helps support the student athletes at LSU across all sports. So shout out to LSU Snacks for riding with us on game days this year and with our post game coverage. And again, get on there, order them, let us know how you think they taste, and very soon you will be seeing them in stores.
Yes, sir.
Matty B, we gave our game ball at the very last second to Caden Durham because he scored at the end. But lo and behold, he scores that very first drive where they
Yeah.
get backed up on penalties, and he breaks one
Huge.
and saves you and
Huge.
scores, gets you up 7-0. But he's the first LSU player in program history against an SEC opponent to rush as a true freshman for over 100 yards and 3 TDs in the same game. So you put both those together, the over 100 and the 3 TDs, no freshman running back has done that before against an SEC foe.
Yeah, and obviously Whit Weeks is deserving of mention here. I mean, you could
More
definitely
than mention, let's be real, he's on fire.
he's on absolute fire right now. I mean, his ability. I mean, you just watched the game, and I rewatched a good bit of it this morning. And you're just like, he's literally everywhere. He is.
I mean,
either in on every play or he is around every play. And I think him, and I do also want to credit Greg Pinn, with a lot of the run defense success. Him and Pinn, I thought, did a really good job, along with the defensive line.
Penn was active and forced a fumble.
Yes.
But Whit Weeks, ever since, remember, prior to Perkins being hurt, that South Alabama game, Matty B, they went with 3 linebackers, and they said, we're going to get Whit on the field now. In these 3 games, 38 tackles, 20 solo, 2.5 sacks, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, a forced fumble, a pick that he nearly scored on, sets up a touchdown in the Arkansas game. Is a man on fire. And I think that energy kind of is spread across the defense right now. We are seeing them play at a very high level.
100%. Like he has become the de facto, even if he's not the captain, he is like the leader spiritually of this defense right now, which is what you need. You need a guy that's going to set the tone, and he is not afraid to hit somebody, not afraid to get in their face, not afraid to talk. Like, he is everywhere.
He threw that Arkansas player back, and the whole O-line went after him, and he just turned around. They all had a good,
he's ready
foot
to go.
on him, basically, and
He's
100
ready to
pounds
go.
and just ready to roll. But there is something we spoke about this early in the season, Matty B, and I said I didn't see it, but I see it now. The defense plays with some swagger, with some confidence, and it's building. And I think that's coming and stemming from them realizing, hey, if we keep putting in this work, we're getting better every week.
Yeah,
they see results.
The swagger is real. Like, they don't seem timid in any aspect anymore, and that was the whole thing. Clearly last year, but like this year, through the first 4 or 5 games, it was like, okay, they're maybe not 100% sure, and that goes to Major Burns, that goes to everybody on the defense. And now it feels like they just are going. And that is what they've talked about now for a year and a half. All the players, whenever you do player interviews, coach interviews, any of them, is like, we want less thinking, just more playing, right? That's the cliche. They've reached that point now. And that's really comforting moving forward.
Stats don't mean everything, but we did continuously say we wanted to see them kind of stay in the top 5. We knew that you can't be the number 1 offense in the country again after losing Daniels and multiple,
Yeah.
first rounders at receiver, but that we wanted them to stay as a top 5 SEC offense, that range they are, and cut in half the defense. They were the worst last year. Right now, they're sitting very middle of the pack in the SEC defense, and really, it's not far off in the numbers. So, kudos to Blake Baker and that staff. Kudos to Joe Sloan and his side of the staff, to Brian Kelly and the players. They're going out and executing, but they seem to have found they're hitting the mark that we said they need to hit for this to be a team that could be competitive. And here they are with 1 loss, more than midway through the season.
I want to say about a month ago, and SB Plus, I've referenced a few times. I haven't referenced in a few weeks, but it's basically like a measure of efficiency and whatever from Bill Connolly at ESPN. Very reputable metric there. I want to say almost a month ago, I think LSU was like 58th in defense, and this takes into account competition level and whatnot as well. They're up to 38th now. Like they've gone up like 20 spots in the last 3 games. It's just been an incredible turnaround so far. I do also want to give a shout out before we move on. CJ Daniels had his best game, 7 catches, 86 yards. He almost had a freaking Tyree Adams helmet catch with his helmet coming off. I was like, good Lord. But it's clear, again, how good he is and how important he is to this offense. So
how much did we talk about that this past week on Mailbag, on Prediction Pod, on when he missed 1 game against Ole Miss, the offense looked completely different.
Yeah.
And even if he only gets you 4 or 5 catches for 40 yards a game, everyone in that building was saying, no, you don't understand. He plays so many positions. He runs routes so well. He's sure-handed. He does all these things that then allow us to do everything else that is comfortable for the other guys. And without him, it was evident. With him, they looked right back to where they were before.
Yeah. He leads the team in receiving, and then Kyron Lacey 6 for 49. So credit to those two. Mason Taylor, like you said, had 2 incredible catches that didn't count. I mean, if you just watch that guy, he's
the king of that. He probably has 500 yards in the year of catches that didn't count, that no clue how he got a foot down.
Yeah,
but he's a beast. But we did give the ball to Durham. We've kind of gone around the wheel there with Ramos and then Weeks and Penn and everyone else. But
those are the 3.
Durham, very impressive showing. And for those wondering, he now is officially has more carries on the year than Josh Williams. And in that game, he did something we didn't think they would do much of, which was he got 20 plus carries, and Caleb Jackson and Josh Williams both got 5. We thought it would be more of a split thing moving forward. And it's clear that Frank Wilson's riding, whether you call it the hot hand, the young talent, the guy who's doing it, but Caden's getting his touches. There is no more wondering if Caden Durham will get touches during games. And they do a nice job spelling them. Like,
I agree.
It's not 20 and then 5 and 5 at the end. Like Josh and them are in there a number of times, and they may not carry it, Josh, but they're getting Caden rest while also giving him 20 carries.
Yeah. Another aspect that I was hopeful in this game LSU could do is run the ball effectively, because Arkansas had been pretty lenient against the run this year. And so to see Caden Durham healthy and taking advantage of that, I think if he was healthy against Ole Miss, he would have made a big difference as well. So awesome to see Caden Durham back on the field. Love it. Great game from him. Just great game all around. Really, the only negatives are the penalties. And I guess, Nussmeier wasn't perfect. So those are, like, if you're
Good
nitpicking.
Enough. The penalties are rough, and you're experiencing it with a first-year starter, some of these, in DJ Chester at center.
Yeah.
You're on the road. But look, I'll default again to what T-Bob said about this at the beginning of the year. When you're young and it's year 1 and you're on the road, it's tough. And you get in your head and everything. Every time the defensive line does their little all move at one time, and you don't know if it's a penalty or not, you can get a little shaky and you hear the wrong call, whatever it might be, and it happens. So these are growing pains for DJ Chester. I don't think that You do anything more than have to live with it and try to continue to coach it through them on Brad Davis's end.
Yeah.
But before we get out of here, Matty B, again, great win, 34-10, unbelievable. It sets up a game against Texas A&M next weekend. It'll be at night in College Station. Both these teams are carrying just one loss, and both the losses aren't terrible losses.
And
They're
both
not.
are the season openers, right? Notre
Yeah, they
Dame
were
for A&M and USC for LSU.
right. Notre Dame's a bit better than USC is obviously at this point, or at least has certainly fared better
At least more
record-wise.
consistent. Jeez.
Yeah, but albeit these two are two teams where I don't know what the national media rhetoric will be this week, but I can promise you, I wish we can get Lucci on the pod this week from Texags. I'll try to, but I would guarantee he would tell you what we think. People are going to look at this and be like, man, look, they're battling for first place in the SEC, tied at the top, when LSU fans are kind of looking around being like, oh, we're first in the SEC type of thing. Like, I don't consider this to be a first in the SEC type team. I guess you can say, yes, they are exceeding expectations, maybe matching them, whatever you can say. They've played some sloppy games that they've won, which counts. But here's what we wanted to talk about before we got out of here. The SEC is a mess right now.
Complete.
I mean, two teams are undefeated in the conference play, A&M and LSU at 4-0, and then LSU 3-0. Both those teams are 6-1. Now, as I mentioned, since the first time since 2007 that before November, every SEC team has a loss, and you've added OU and Texas. At 6-1 overall, A&M and LSU sit atop the actual conference standings. Georgia's 6-1, Tennessee 6-1, Missouri 6-1, Texas is 6-1. Then you're sitting on the 5-2 teams, Vanderbilt, Bama. They've got to remain unblemished the rest of the way to have a shot at the playoffs. And then even when you get into these 4-3 teams, Arkansas has now fallen to that. South Carolina's climbed their way up to 4-3. Ole Miss, another 5-2 team, sitting out there that cannot slip up again. LSU still got to play Florida. LSU still got to play Bama. LSU still got to play Vandy. LSU still got to play Oklahoma, who at 4-3 and 1-3 in the conference is among the worst teams out there. But this isn't getting, as we said, there are no gimmies, but at A&M, at back home against bye week, back home against Bama, at Florida, who's playing well very recently compared to how they start. Yep. Then you get Vandy, which has obviously been Vandy this year, and then finish out with OU. OU looks bad right now. How do they look in 5 games? I have no idea. Yep. I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the way, but whomever told us that this 12-team playoff and expansion and all that would ruin in-season games was wrong, because now every single game matters, and none of these teams are that much better than anybody else.
I said a few weeks ago, I think somebody asked if what we thought LSU's record would be in that 3-game stretch of Ole Miss, Arkansas, and A&M. And I was like, 2-1, most likely, right? And I said, if they go 3-0, they are going to make the playoffs. And I still believe that. If they beat A&M, they're going to be in the driver's seat for that.
That was our second answer to the ultimate question, the reality. Yeah, they could go 2-3 in that. But if they beat Arkansas and A&M on the road and you only have 4 games left and you can lose one of them and make the playoffs, and it's that slate, suddenly you feel like, okay, whoa, the odds have moved into our favor that we might make the playoffs, not like, oh, we could lose every game. So they're halfway home to that if they win these 2 road games.
That's again, because you have 3 of the last 4 at home. Like, that's the biggest thing. We understand how much better I personally think LSU, even after this road win, how much better LSU plays at home than on the road. And you do have, winnable games, we assume, with those. And especially now with Alabama floundering around, which will still be tough, but
no doubt.
This A&M game, you're underdogs, like what, 3-point dogs right now as it opens up.
But no, they opened as favorites, didn't they?
I thought it was A&M -3.
No. I think LSU opened as favorites. You can keep going on your thought.
Double check that. But regardless, like, this is.
Oh, no, you're right.
This is the biggest hurdle yet. This is the biggest hurdle you have left this season. Again, not to say you can't lose the other games. You definitely could. But if you win this game, you now go into the last 4 games. Only needing to go, if you go 3-1 in the last 4 games with a win here, you're not only going to make the playoffs, but you're going to make the SEC championship game if you go 3-1 in that last stretch. So it's like this game, I think the winner is almost locked in for an SEC title game appearance at
I
this
just
point.
still think every game's tough.
But
I
it's
don't
like
think
I agree, but it like
locked into the best path, the easiest
it would
path maybe,
be
but
yeah,
not locked in.
everything is
It's
crazy. And like if we're, power ranking it, I think Georgia's probably still like the best team, I would
I'd
say
agree.
personally in the SEC. Um,
I thought
but
Texas was gonna beat them.
I
I
thought
was wrong.
Texas was a good team as well. Which they are still a good team, but that we'll see how it plays out. But
Tennessee
regardless,
doesn't look as good as we thought they would.
no, Tennessee, and we'll have to see how Ole Miss bounces back. Like there's so many questions. This is heck. I mean, you've done this longer than
Well,
me.
I
This
think
is
that's why that answers it, right? Like Georgia took a loss already. Like, yeah, they
yep,
got that win over Texas, but the Tennessee doesn't look as good as we thought. Bama doesn't look as good as we thought. Texas has caught this loss now, which has suddenly put LSU and A&M at the top. And as I said, I think both these teams, as they get ready to play each other, kind of looking around like we need to just keep doing us
yeah.
because we don't have those expectations on this season that those teams did.
No, I mean neither team does. Especially A&M year one of Mike Elko. I think they would be ecstatic
And
with
LSU coming off not just losing all these guys at the draft, but they have an entirely every new defensive staff member is new, and
yeah.
they're taking those same pieces and this quickly putting them into this spot. I
Yeah.
didn't see that coming.
Nobody saw it coming. No LSU. I mean, LSU fans didn't even see this type of performance, beating Ole Miss in overtime, and then getting a road win at Arkansas by 24. Like I said earlier, like that's a type of win that you don't just like stumble across, right? You don't just like happenstance beat Arkansas by 24 on the road. Like that is going out and taking it, and
Mm.
so
They're already talking about this being one of the bigger games, meaning wise, kind of in the modern era, let's say playoff era, at Kyle Stadium, at Kyle Field. So they flexed it. It's a night game. That place is going to be rocking as well.
yeah.
Much more so than Arkansas was, which
Oh yeah.
we saw. If you can jump on someone early, it makes all the difference.
Can they become a first half team along with it? Like that's can
That
they
that
become a
that was
first
a 4-quarter team that we just watched play,
that yes. Can you just score on your first drives? Like that was
no doubt.
that's the biggest thing because that just changes the whole trajectory of the game. Even if you score like another field goal the rest of the half, you still have that drive. So it's like and also another thing, just a note before we get out of here. Brian Kelly after the game in his press conference, I thought it was really interesting. He said, "We've been working with the defense coming out of halftime to get that first stop in the third quarter." And the way I heard it was, well, we're getting the ball first in the first half no matter what. So the
Um,
defense is coming out in the third quarter. I know LSU fans will scoff at that, but that's what I heard. And I was like, oh, well, at least they know what they're doing. At least they
I
know the
was
script.
I was in the live game thread when the coin toss happened, and then when I saw LSU was getting it, I was like, "Here we go, 2 pages of people complaining." But no, no, no. Arkansas won and deferred, so
Yeah.
it was taken out of LSU's hands at
So
that
it
point.
looks like LSU has a script at least that it wants to stick to of getting the ball first in the first quarter. So we'll see. But yeah, this A&M game is massive. I can't wait to watch it. Can't wait to
Break
preview
down
it
the
and
film.
dive into everything. And we know A&M is a good team this year. So that was
All
fun.
right, Matty B, let's get out of here. Oh, for all of you that don't know, well, obviously, look, subscribe to the Bengal Tiger here on YouTube.
Yeah.
Hit like, comment down here just about what you thought about the game, maybe what you think about this A&M game or the SEC as a whole. I'll jump in the reactions with some of my thoughts as well or responses. But we had a huge new sign up week on the Bengal Tiger with On3. Shout out to everyone who joined. It's $1 for a week, and then that gets you less than $5 a month for a year, $4.99 a month for a year. So first 7 days, just $1. Then after that, $4.99 for a month for the year. That's going to be the best deal we'll have this year. And trust me, adding Jarrett Roser, Julie, Tyler, both of us, and Billy to this 6-man team now, plus what you get from Wilt Pong and Chad Simmons and Andy Staples, all these national guys. It's the best deal out there. It's the best site out there. and we want our work to speak for itself and our coverage, and hopefully it does. And I'll say this: everyone, Matty B, who joins the board, the site, and then becomes a member of the board community, loves it. Whether they complain or not, they love it. So, and if you're a member, tell a friend to join in, because we're growing. My eyes are. I won't get into the numbers here. We're chasing Georgia. That's who we have our eye on to pass in terms of who's got a bigger site. So let's LSU fans, let's get this going.
Let's go. We want Georgia. We want Georgia.
Don't chant that too loud.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
Great win from LSU. It's a lot of fun to cover a good team, and this team has certainly embodied Brian Kelly, I think, with its poise, focus, and intensity. So we'll continue to cover them. We'll be back with a mailbag sometime this week. So be on the lookout for that.
Recruiting podcast. Yeah.
Recruiting
We'll have a few things
podcast,
running.
everything. We've been rolling on the YouTube side. So thank you all for subscribing and joining us and commenting and everything like that. So yeah, for Shea Dixon, I'm Matthew Brune. We will talk to y'all later.